In the world of billionaires and boardrooms, love is the last thing anyone expects, especially when two rivals have spent a decade trying to destroy each other. Simone Vance, the queen of Atlanta media. Toshiro Akimoto, the playboy tech genius of Tokyo. Their arguments are legendary, their rivalry unbreakable, but one signature and one unbelievable document will unlock a truth neither of them saw coming. Grab a warm drink and let's begin. Tokyo was colder than usual that winter morning, the kind of cold that sliced clean through the layers of Simone Vance's immaculate wool coat. But Simone didn't shiver. She didn't flinch. She was the kind of woman who could walk into a room at sub-zero and make the temperature drop another 10 degrees, just by arching a brow. She swept into Akimoto Tech's headquarters like she owned the building, like she owned Tokyo, like she owned the world. In a way, she did. Simone Vance, 50 years old, flawless hair in place, heels sharp enough to pierce egos, was the billionaire founder of Vance Media, Atlanta's crown jewel and the largest Black-owned media empire in the country. She didn't have time for nonsense, especially not the Japanese tech playboy whose company she was about to devour. The double doors to the obsidian glass boardroom swung open, and there he was, Toshiro Akimoto, Tosh, leaning back in his Herman Miller chair like a man who had never worked a stressful day in his life. 50 years old, annoyingly handsome, wearing a charcoal suit that fit like it had been designed for his body alone. One hand behind his head, the other draped casually over the armrest, legs crossed in that infuriatingly relaxed way Simone hated. His silver-streaked hair caught the winter light. His smirk caught her patience by the throat. "Simone," he said, voice a low baritone that traveled the length of the glossy table. "You're staring again. Should I be flattered or concerned?" Simone dropped her briefcase onto the table with a thud that made 3 junior analysts jump. "Please," she said, sliding into her seat. "If I were staring, you'd know. There'd be screaming." "Oh?" He tilted his head. "Is that your love language?" "My love language," she said coolly, "is liquidation." His grin widened, her jaw tightened, and the room exhaled, bracing for impact. They fought like this every meeting. He provoked, she demolished, he flirted, she ignored, he smirked. She sharpened her words into blades. Their teams whispered bets at the start of each session. How long until Simone's eyebrow twitches? Will Tosh make her snap first? Who raises their voice? Who wins the round? Some executives claimed the sexual tension between them was so thick it should have been added to the agenda as a liability. But Simone didn't do flirtation, and Tosh didn't do rejection, so instead they did war. After a marathon 10-hour negotiation, a frantic assistant rushed into the room. "The airports," he gasped. "Sapporo, Hokkaido region. All flights are grounded. Blizzard conditions." Tosh groaned. Simone cursed under her breath, which meant both of them. Two people who would rather drown than share oxygen were diverted to a private airport lounge near Sapporo, waiting for weather to clear. A single lounge, a single fireplace, a single minibar, and two people who made thunderstorms look polite. Night fell, snow thickened, and the lounge became a cocoon of glass and silence. The blizzard trapped them completely. Simone sat stiffly on a leather sofa, scrolling through emails she wasn't even reading. Tosh stood by the window, sipping whiskey and watching the wind whip the runway. He broke the silence first. "You know, we don't have to talk about work." "I wasn't planning to," he chuckled. Simone Vance, the woman who once told a senator she hoped his Wi-Fi crashed forever, has nothing to say to me. Correct. And if I said I actually enjoy our arguments? Simone's fingers paused mid-scroll. She didn't look at him, but she felt it, the vulnerability beneath his teasing tone. So she answered, softly, dangerously, If I said that, I would be lying. He turned, their eyes locked. Outside, snow curled like white fire. Inside, something else burned. She didn't know who poured the first drink. All she knew was that at some point the hostility cracked open and something raw spilled out. She told him about Atlanta, about the weight of building a media empire on her back, about the loneliness that success never protected her from. He told her about Tokyo, about the endless expectations, the corporate playboy mask he wore because people loved him shallow but feared him serious, about the nights he came home to penthouses too big and silence too loud. Somewhere between the second and third glass, their insults softened into truths. Somewhere between the fourth and fifth, their hands brushed. Somewhere between the sixth and seventh, they were no longer sitting apart. His forehead touched hers. Her fingers curled around his shirt. "Simone," he whispered, voice trembling the way only honesty can. "I'm tired of being alone." Her breath hitched. "Me too," she whispered back, and the snow kept falling. What happened next was not reckless, not drunken, not a mistake. It was inevitable. 25 years of buried gravity pulling them toward a collision they had spent a decade denying. He kissed her like a man who'd been waiting his whole life. She kissed him like a woman who'd forgotten what it felt like to be wanted without agenda. Clothes fell, walls broke, and loneliness finally had somewhere to rest. The morning after, Simone woke first. The snow was gone. The storm was gone. The heat of the night was gone. Beside her lay Toshiro Akimoto, shirtless, peaceful, devastatingly handsome. She froze. "Oh, hell no." He stirred, blinked, met her eyes. Both screamed internally. They launched out of bed like the mattress had caught fire. "This never happened," Simone snapped. "Agreed," Tosh said, grabbing his shirt like it was evidence in a crime scene. "We go back to normal." "Absolutely. Nothing changes. Nothing." And that should have been the end. Except Simone turned for just a second to check if he was dressed, and he was still watching her like a man stunned, watching her like he'd been waiting to find her for years. She didn't see the way his expression softened, the way his chest rose with a painful breath, the way he whispered, barely audible, "I remember everything, except how not to want you." 3 months later, the winter storm in Sapporo felt like a fever dream Simone had violently repressed. She had buried it beneath 12-hour workdays, back-to-back board meetings, and an acquisition strategy so ruthless, even her lawyers prayed before entering her office. But Tosh hadn't forgotten. Not the storm, not the night, not her mouth on his, not the softness she hid beneath armor and ambition. Simone had shut it down the next morning. He had let her, because the battlefield was safer than the truth. Now the battlefield was here. The Obsidian boardroom of Vance Media's Tokyo branch. This time, she arrived triumphant. Tosh arrived composed, but there was a quiet in his eyes that didn't match the smirk he wore like a mask. The long glass table was lined with lawyers. Japanese, American, bilingual, exhausted. Stacks of contract binders towered between Simone and Tosh like barricades protecting nations at war. Simone signed the first page without hesitation. The pen glided with the confidence of a woman who had waited a decade for this victory. Across from her, Tosh leaned back, fingers steepled, studying her with an unreadable expression. "You're unusually quiet," Simone said, not looking up. "I'm savoring the moment," he replied. "It's not every day a man witnesses his own funeral." "Don't be dramatic," she muttered, flipping to the next page. "Simone, you are merging my company out of existence. That's business." "And our night together was..." "What? A snowstorm special?" She froze for half a second. Just half. Then she resumed signing. Tosh exhaled slowly, a man trying not to feel what he felt. The final set of documents slid forward. Simone reached for her pen. Tosh did not. "No," he said quietly. "Not until I read everything." Simone rolled her eyes. "Tosh, for the love of—" "I said no." His voice carried an authority that made every junior lawyer sit up straight. He reached for the stack, stopped halfway, frowned. A young associate at the end of the table was stiff, pale, sweating like his career depended on the next 60 seconds. "Is there a problem?" Simone asked sharply. The young man swallowed. Ms. Vance, Mr. Akamoto, there's one document that didn't match the rest of your background files." Simone narrowed her eyes. "Show it." He hesitated, looked at Tosh, then Simone, then Tosh again. "Just give it to us," Tosh said, growing impatient. The junior lawyer slid a single paper across the table, a single sheet, a single blow. Simone glanced down. Tosh leaned in to see and froze. State of Nevada marriage license, Clark County, Las Vegas. Issue date, 25 years ago. Simone's breath caught. Tosh blinked twice, then a third time. Slow, stunned, but not like Simone. Not confused. More like a man watching a ghost he recognized suddenly step out of a wall. Simone spoke first, voice sharp and lethal. "This is a joke." Tosh exhaled sharply. "No," he murmured. This is real paperwork." Simone's eyes snapped up. "What?" He swallowed. "I remember Vegas. I remember us." He pointed at the license with a trembling finger. "But I don't remember signing anything legal. I thought it was—" He broke off, voice thick. "A chapel stunt, a symbolic ceremony, not this." Simone stared at him. "You're telling me you remember the weekend, but not the fact that we got married?" Tosh shook his head slowly, eyes still locked on the certificate. "We were drunk, wildly stupid. I thought the rings were plastic." A beat. "I didn't know we filed the paperwork. I didn't know it went through." Simone's voice dropped to a whisper. "And I remember nothing." Tosh whispered back, horrified. "And I remember everything, except the part that mattered most." The junior lawyer whimpered. "There's also a financial implication," he stammered. Simone's head whipped toward him. "What financial implication?" His hands shook as he opened a folder. "You see, because neither party filed annulment paperwork and no divorce was ever registered." Simone's eyes widened. Tosh's jaw dropped. "You're telling us," Simone said slowly, "that we've been legally married for 25 years. The lawyer nodded. Simone stood so fast her chair screeched across the floor. Tosh stood too. They yelled in perfect unison, "Absolutely not!" The senior accountant cleared his throat, adjusting his glasses. "That's not all." Simone's stomach dropped. Tosh's fingers tightened around the back of his chair. "What now?" Simone asked, voice clipped. The accountant opened a thick binder, color-coded tabs, balance sheets, asset transfers. He clicked a remote. A screen lit up with intertwining financial charts. "You see, under marital property law, any income earned during the duration of the marriage—" "We weren't married," Tosh snapped. "You were, legally," the accountant corrected. "And because of that—" Simone felt heat rise in her neck. "Just say it," she growled. The accountant inhaled deeply. "Your company's assets have been commingled for 2 decades. The room tilted. Simone gripped the table. Tosh whispered, horrified. "What does that mean?" The accountant adjusted the chart. "Legally," he said, voice trembling. You own each other's companies. Silence. Absolute silence. Until Simone whispered, voice hollow, "You're telling me if I crush his company?" "You bankrupt yourself," the accountant finished. "And if I dissolve her empire," Tosh murmured, "I destroy my own." The accountant nodded miserably. "You cannot attack each other without mutual financial destruction. Your fates are fused." He turned the screen once more. "Because legally, Mr. Akamoto, Ms. Vance," he swallowed, "you have been husband and wife for 25 years. The news detonated through both corporations faster than any scandal Simone or Tosh had ever weathered. Not even 5 minutes after the accountant's stunned confession, phones buzzed across Tokyo and Atlanta like a swarm of angry locusts. Assistants ran. PR directors cursed. CFOs hyperventilated. And at the center of it all, Simone Vance and Toshiro Akamoto stood side by side, staring at the marriage license like it was radioactive. Simone was the first to speak. "This," she said, voice tight as piano wire, "is a logistical nightmare." Tosh rubbed his temples. "This is a cosmic joke." By afternoon, both empires were on fire. In Atlanta, board members demanded emergency meetings. Investors threatened to pull out. Someone in accounting actually cried. Twitter exploded. Hashtag married to the merger. Hashtag Akamoto, Vance 94. Did Tosh just wife an American media queen in 1998? Talk shows debated everything from Simone's taste in men to whether Tosh was secretly in love with her the entire decade of their rivalry. Theories ranged from secret elopement to drunken destiny to how do two geniuses forget a whole marriage? Simone watched clips from her office window, jaw clenched so tightly her teeth hurt. "This is a circus," she muttered. "No," her assistant said solemnly. "This is Barnum and Bailey on fire." In Tokyo, Akimoto Tech board members stormed Tosh's office like an angry parliament. "You didn't disclose a marriage. You didn't report a spouse in your filings. You didn't tell us you had a legal wife." The board members were shouting, but Tosh barely heard them. His pulse thundered in his ears. His vision tunneled on the marriage license sitting on his desk. The one stamped, signed, processed, legal, real. How could this be real? He remembered Vegas. God, he remembered everything about Vegas. Simone's laugh lighting up the neon strip. Her hand in his when they ran across a crosswalk at midnight. Her voice soft and brave as she said, "Say yes." He remembered the chapel lights. He remembered the stupid Elvis impersonator. He remembered kissing her like the world had stopped turning. He remembered thinking, if this were real, I'd stay. But he also remembered no paperwork, no pens, no county clerks, no long forms. Just two wild kids in a blur of champagne and adrenaline. He had assumed, for 25 years, that the ceremony was symbolic. A joke they took too far. Two reckless hearts pretending for a moment what they were too young to understand. But now, seeing the official seal, the stamp, the signatures, we actually did it. We actually filed it. We were actually married. His breath hitched. How did I forget the most important part? Then the answer struck him like a blade. Because that night, I wasn't thinking about paperwork. I was thinking about her. The forms, the clerks, the signatures, those must have blurred into the chaos of that night. Collapsed into the noise. Overshadowed by the one thing he couldn't forget even if he tried. Simone's warmth against his chest. Her whispered yes. His whispered always. He swallowed hard. 25 years wasted. 25 years apart. 25 years believing it was a fantasy that ended with sunrise. And now the universe was laughing at him. The marriage was real. The love was real. Everything he had buried was crawling its way back into the light. No wonder he broke the silence with a stunned whisper. "I didn't hide anybody. I just didn't know it counted. The words felt pathetic. Truth always did. Tosh raised both hands, calm, cornered, and surprisingly honest. I didn't hide anyone. The room fell silent. He continued carefully. I remembered Vegas. I remembered Simone. I remembered us. He tapped the marriage license on his desk. But I did not know the wedding was legally binding. I didn't know we filed the paperwork. I never knew it processed. The board members blinked. One leaned forward slowly. So you're saying you remember the relationship, but not the legality? Yes, Tosh said sharply. Exactly that. Another director whispered, horrified. How drunk were you? Tosh sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. Very, but also young, wild, reckless. I thought it was a symbolic chapel ceremony, a joke, a moment. He pointed to the marriage license again. I did not know it was real, and I certainly didn't hide a media mogul from you for 25 years. I had no idea we were legally married. A long pause. Then one board member muttered, well, that actually makes sense. The rest nodded reluctantly, chaos settling into stunned acceptance. Lawyers gathered around a giant monitor, calculating losses so catastrophic they needed new charts, shared patents, shared royalties, decades of mutual tax implications, a joint property trail neither Simone nor Tosh had ever known existed. It was a professional apocalypse. Days later, the final verdict arrived. Simone and Tosh were hauled into a private meeting with both legal teams and two very pale accountants. We've run every simulation, one said. There is no way to untangle 25 years of marital property without cooperation, said the other. Simone crossed her arms. So, divorce? No, the accountant said quickly. If you divorce, you split everything in half, including both companies. Tosh blinked. We can't do that. Simone pinched the bridge of her nose. We also can't stay married. The accountant swallowed. Actually, legally, you already have. Simone inhaled sharply. Tosh cursed under his breath. Neither met the other's eyes. The crisis escalated at a federal level. Two governments, Japan and the United States, sent representatives. What followed was a meeting so intense, Simone later compared it to negotiating with a firing squad. A stern official laid down the judgment. Your shared assets have international economic implications. You must sort your finances in person. Simone stiffened. In person? Where? In one residence, the official replied calmly. Together. Simone's voice cracked. Excuse me? Tosh nearly choked. Together? As in, you are still married, the official said. Legally, financially, internationally. You will cohabitate for 60 days while a joint task force audits your assets. Simone stared. Tosh stared. The official continued, unamused. If you fail to cooperate, you risk government investigation into corporate misconduct and a potential freeze on both your empires. Simone's hands balled into fists. I would rather, she said slowly, hibernate with a bear. Tosh didn't miss a beat. Please, a bear has more emotional intelligence. She glared at him. He glared back. The official cleared his throat. You move in tomorrow. The next day, Simone Vance, the woman who avoided cohabitation like a disease, dragged her suitcase into Tosh's Tokyo penthouse. The space was annoyingly beautiful, minimalist, quiet, too clean, to him. Simone walked through the foyer, muttering curses under her breath. 60 days, she told herself. You have survived worse. You survived birthing an empire. You survived corporate sabotage. You survived a snowstorm with this man. She kicked her suitcase into the bedroom assigned to her, then paused. A closet door stood slightly open. Something inside caught her eye. A worn cardboard box, labeled in neat handwriting, VEGAS. Simone's pulse slowed. Her breath tightened. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." She crouched, hands shaking, and opened the box. Inside lay a single photograph. Faded, blurry. Two 20-somethings, laughing so hard they were clinging to each other. Simone with wild curls and glitter eyeliner. Tosh with sunburned cheeks and a stupidly happy smile. His arm around her waist. Her face buried in his neck. Both wearing cheap plastic wedding rings. Simone's throat closed. Her vision blurred. She sank to the floor, photo trembling between her fingers. "Oh my God," she whispered, "because this wasn't business. This wasn't politics. This wasn't a drunken accident. This was two people who were in love once. Before life pulled them apart so violently, they forgot their own story." Behind her, at the doorway, Tosh's quiet voice broke the silence. "I kept it," he said softly, almost apologetically. "I just didn't think it was real." Simone didn't turn. She couldn't. Because for the first time in 25 years, something old, something terrifyingly familiar, flickered inside her. And she didn't know if she wanted to run from it or run toward it. Cohabitation with Tosh Akimoto was not a partnership. It was trench warfare with scented candles and luxury appliances. Simone lasted exactly 8 minutes before threatening bodily harm. 8 minutes. She had seen IPOS collapse slower. The moment she moved into his penthouse, Simone realized Tosh Akimoto lived like a man allergic to boundaries. For example, 1. He cooked naked under an apron, at midnight, listening to jazz, whistling off-key. Simone came down for water and froze. "Tosh," she deadpanned, "why are you frying scallops, dressed like a Chippendales trainee?" He blinked, looked down at himself unfazed. "My clothes were in the wash." "You have 12 closets, all occupied." "With what?" He smirked. "Memories." She nearly threw the nearest pan at him. 2. She slept in the guest room with the door locked, not because she feared him, but because she feared how her body remembered him, how her heartbeat jumped when he passed, how her breath stuttered when his cologne drifted across the hallway, how her mind replayed a snowy night in Sapporo like an unfinished sentence. So Simone locked the door. Tosh tested it once, just once. He tugged the knob, found it locked, whispered a sigh, and walked away quietly, too quietly. 3. They argued over breathing, literally breathing. "You're inhaling too loudly," she accused one morning. "I am what?" Tosh barked. "You sound like you're auditioning for yoga class." "Well, you chew like you're punishing the food." "You keep moving my books. You keep touching my thermostat." Simone jabbed a finger at him. "Of course I touch your thermostat. You keep this place cold enough to preserve corpses." Tosh threw his hands up. "It improves productivity. This is not a cryogenic lab." But then, something shifted. Between the petty wars, something else bloomed. Quiet, unexpected, dangerous. One night, after a 16-hour call with Atlanta, Simone sat slumped on the sofa, shoulders rigid with pain. She didn't hear Tosh approach. His hands touched her shoulders gently, testing. She stiffened. "You're tense?" he murmured. "I'm fine." "No, you're hurting." She didn't protest again. His thumbs moved slowly, deliberately, tracing careful circles into the knots at the base of her neck. She exhaled shakily. His breath hovered near her ear. The tension melted, but something else took its place. Something warm. Something old. He pulled back too quickly, realizing it too. Neither spoke. The next morning, Tosh struggled with a tie before a press conference. Simone passed him on the way to the kitchen, then stopped. "Give it here." He froze. "What?" She stepped close, too close, and looped the tie around his neck. Tosh swallowed hard. She tightened a perfect knot with the ease of someone who'd once done it 1,000 times. He watched her fingers. She refused to meet his eyes. He whispered, "Déjà vu." Her hands faltered, but she finished the knot and walked away before he could say more. One evening, they reached for the same ingredient, the same time, from opposite sides of the kitchen. Their hands brushed. Simone jerked back. Tosh didn't move. They cooked anyway, chopping in sync, reaching for utensils at the same rhythm, arguing over seasoning but laughing between bites. It felt domestic, dangerously domestic. Simone went to bed irritated at herself for liking it. Flashes began returning to both of them. Vegas, neon lights, a stolen kiss in a casino hallway, Simone laughing on Tosh's shoulders, Tosh spinning her around in a wedding chapel lobby. 2 rings, plastic but precious. Simone woke sweating. Tosh woke aching. Neither admitted a thing. Simone caught him staring once. She wasn't doing anything special, just sipping coffee, hair wrapped in a simple silk scarf, reading the morning briefing. But Tosh looked at her with an expression she had never seen on him. Soft, unfiltered, hungry in a way no physical desire had ever been. "Tosh," she warned without looking up, "if you stare at me like that again, I'll break your elbows." He didn't stop. He only smiled. Joint therapy for married CEOs. The government task force insisted they attend. Simone tried to walk out twice. The therapist, older, unshakable, wearing glasses shaped like disappointment, forced them to sit. "So," the therapist said calmly, "describe your marriage." Simone scoffed. "It's not a marriage." Tosh added, "It's a legal mishap." "Yet you live together," the therapist replied. Simone crossed her legs. Tosh crossed his arms. The therapist looked at Simone first. "Why do you avoid love?" Simone stiffened. "Love is a liability. Power is predictable." The therapist turned to Tosh. "And you? Why so many relationships?" His voice dropped. "Because no one," he said quietly, "ever matched Simone." Simone's breath caught. Her pulse sprinted. She forced herself to look away. He didn't. Later that night, Simone paced the penthouse, restless, angry, confused, a storm in silk pajamas. She wandered into the office Tosh rarely used. A drawer sat slightly open. Simone didn't snoop, ever, but something tugged at her. Inside the drawer was the Vegas box she discovered earlier, but deeper inside, something else. A smaller velvet pouch. She opened it slowly. Inside lay a faded Vegas photo, the same that broke her earlier. A second photo, Simone kissing Tosh's cheek, a receipt for a street cart watermelon smoothie they shared. And one more thing, a delicate ring, not plastic, not cheap. A thin silver band engraved with 2 initials, S+T. Simone's hand trembled, because this wasn't nostalgia. This wasn't accident. This wasn't forgetfulness. This was proof. Tosh hadn't forgotten her. Not ever. He had kept every piece of Vegas, every memory, every fragment of the night they became each other's something. For 25 years, her throat tightened. Her heart pounded. And for the first time in her adult life, Simone Vance did not feel like the queen of a global empire. She felt like a woman on the verge of remembering something that could shatter everything she built. Tosh stepped into the doorway, quiet, barefoot, vulnerable. "I told you not to be in here," he said softly. Simone lifted the ring between her fingers. Why? She whispered. Did you keep that picture? Her voice cracked on the last word. Tosh froze. The question hit him like a punch. He walked toward her slowly, cautiously, like approaching a wounded animal. Simone, he said gently, you don't want the answer. Yes, she breathed. I do. Tosh exhaled shakily, a breath that held 25 years of unspoken truth. That weekend, he began, voice low and raw, wasn't 2 days. Simone blinked. Her heartbeat tripped. What? He met her eyes. It was 5. Her knees wobbled. She gripped the desk. No, she whispered. That's impossible. I was only there for the conference. No, Tosh said again, stepping closer, eyes painfully honest. You stayed. Simone stared at him as if he were unraveling the universe in front of her. You stayed, Tosh repeated, his voice breaking with memory. With me. The room tilted. Memories flickered faintly. Vegas lights, cheap champagne, she laughing so hard her ribs hurt. But they were dusty, incomplete. Tosh continued. After the conference, you said you needed a break from everything, from school, from pressure, from expectations. He swallowed. I said I did too. He moved around her, slowly, as if painting the air with their lost history. We went from casino to casino, getting kicked out for dancing on tables. Simone's lips parted. A flash, her twirling on a glowing bar counter, his hands at her waist. We ate $3 hot dogs at 5 a.m. Another flash. Ketchup on her cheek. Tosh laughing, wiping it gently. We talked about our dreams. Simone pressed a hand to her chest. What did I say? Tosh smiled softly, achingly. You said you wanted to create stories that changed the world, stories that represented people like you. You said you wanted a media empire before you even knew how to spell incorporate. Her breath hitched. And I told you, he whispered, that I wanted to build the future, build the tech that would connect people across oceans, that I wanted to make my family proud. He paused. You listened to me like no one ever had. Her vision blurred. And then, Tosh said, voice cracking slightly, we swore to meet again after graduation, at the exact same spot on the Vegas Strip. Simone closed her eyes. Her body remembered the promise her mind had forgotten. Tosh's voice softened to a breaking whisper, but you didn't come back. Simone opened her eyes, full of confusion and hurt. Tosh, I don't remember any of this. Why didn't I return? Why didn't you come find me? He inhaled, long and slow, as if bracing himself. You didn't return because your father died 2 weeks later, he said. I found out from the university office. I tried to reach you, but you vanished from campus. You withdrew for the semester. Simone's hand flew to her mouth. Her father, her anchor, her everything. I went home, she whispered. I had to run the household. My mother couldn't function. Her voice cracked. I didn't have space for anything else. Tosh nodded painfully. I know, he murmured, because right after that, my mother got sick. I spent the whole year taking care of her. Simone's eyes softened. Tosh, so we never went back, he said. Not because we didn't want to, not because we forgot. He stepped closer, his voice trembling. We lost each other before we even had the chance to begin. Simone broke first. A tear rolled down her cheek, surprising her. Tosh broke next, eyes shining with the grief he'd buried for decades. For a long moment, they just stared. Two people standing in the ruins of a story they never realized they'd been living. Simone whispered, all these years, all the fighting, the rivalry, the tension. It wasn't hate, Tosh said softly. It was recognition. She swallowed hard. He continued, every time we argued in a boardroom, it felt like deja vu, like we'd fought and loved in another lifetime. Simone's knees buckled. She steadied herself on the desk. Tosh stepped closer, close enough to feel her breath, close enough to smell the faint vanilla on her skin. The universe kept throwing us at each other, he whispered, and we kept pretending we didn't feel it. Simone's voice trembled. Tosh, what if we were supposed to find each other again? He reached out, almost touched her, stopped himself. Simone, he said, voice breaking, we did find each other again. We just didn't know what we were finding. Their hearts beat wildly. Old energy surged between them. Something bigger than business, bigger than rivalry, bigger than memory. Simone leaned into the table, shaking. Tosh's eyes softened, full of longing he couldn't hide. And then her phone rang. Both jumped. Simone answered, breath still uneven. Speak, she said harshly. Her CFO's frantic voice filled the line. Simone, you need to sit down. I'm already sitting. No. Sit down. Her stomach dropped. Tosh's eyes locked with hers. What happened? She demanded. The CFO inhaled sharply. Your companies are merging automatically. What? How? Marital law, he said. Because you're legally a 25-year married couple. Simone's heart stopped. Tosh froze. The CFO finished. If you divorce, both empires fall. Simone's hand went cold. Tosh's jaw clenched. And the entire world they knew, business, power, control, hung by a single fragile thread. The courthouse walls felt colder than any boardroom Simone had ever conquered, not because of the air, but because of what she was about to do. A retroactive annulment, erase Vegas, erase 5 days, erase 25 years of a marriage neither of them remembered, and both of them felt too deeply now. Tosh stood beside her in a navy suit that should have made him look powerful. Instead, he looked defeated, like a man bracing for the loss of something he didn't know he needed until he had it again. Simone wouldn't look at him. She faced forward, chin high, mask locked in place. The Simone Vance armor, the one she wore to bury fear. The judge glanced at the documents and burst out laughing. Retroactive annulment, he repeated, wiping his eyes. Ms. Vance, Mr. Akamoto, you've been married for 25 years. Simone's jaw flexed. Tosh swallowed hard. The judge leaned back. You expect me to annul a quarter-century union because you forgot it? He shook his head. The answer is no. You're adults. Work it out. Simone stiffened. Tosh's heart dropped. Your Honor. Simone tried. No. Bang. The gavel slammed. Case dismissed, just like that. Outside the courthouse, cameras exploded in bursts of white light. Reporters screamed questions. Security shouted orders. Simone didn't hear any of it. Her world had gone quiet. She walked ahead, heels clicking like gunfire, face immovable. Tosh followed a few steps behind, chest tight with panic he refused to show. Because he recognized that silence. He remembered it from 25 years ago. The moment she disappeared from his life, and he felt it happening again. For the next week, Simone became ice, frozen smile, frozen tone, frozen eyes. She spoke to Tosh only about business, never about Vegas, or memories, or marriage. She shut every emotional door so tightly he couldn't even see the cracks. But during meetings, she sat at the opposite end of the table. In the penthouse, she avoided him. At night, he heard the click of her locked guest room door like a gunshot. Tosh felt the distance like physical pain. He had lost her once. He could feel it happening again. He hated it. Meanwhile, the world devoured their story whole. Social media turned rabid. Hashtag 25-year marriagegate. Hashtag Simone and Tosh. Hashtag how do you forget your wife? Everyone had an opinion. Paparazzi camped outside Tosh's penthouse. Cameras flashed so relentlessly Simone whispered, "Are we celebrities or suspects?" "Both," Tosh muttered. Akamoto Tech PR argued with Vance Media PR. Shareholders panicked. A stock dip triggered the Tokyo Exchange's automatic stabilize function. One morning, they stepped outside and a paparazzo lunged too close. Instinctively, Tosh grabbed Simone's hand, firmly, protectively, pulling her against his side. Camera shutters went wild. The clip went viral within minutes. Tosh saves Simone from aggressive reporter. Is it love? Tosh's hand-holding seen round the world. Simone doesn't pull away. What does it mean? Simone had pulled away after 3 seconds. But those 3 seconds haunted Tosh all night. Their biggest fight didn't happen in a boardroom. It happened in the penthouse kitchen. Simone slammed a report onto the counter. "We sort through the merger," she said flatly. "Then we get rid of the marriage." Tosh stared at her. Something inside him snapped. "You want to erase all of it?" he asked, voice shaking. "Yes." "All of Vegas?" "Yes." "All 5 days?" Her breath hitched. Just barely. But she kept her chin high. "Yes." He stepped closer. Too close. "You can end the marriage," he said softly, "but don't pretend it wasn't real." Simone's eyes flickered. For a heartbeat, she looked vulnerable, exposed, lost. But then she blinked it away. "We're done talking about this," she whispered. Tosh watched her go. His hands trembled because he realized no hostile takeover, no business disaster, no scandal had ever frightened him like losing Simone Vance again. That night, long after Tosh had gone to bed, Simone sat at her laptop, unable to sleep. She opened an old email archive, something she hadn't looked at in years. A flood of old university messages loaded, surveys, advising notes, one labeled System Migration Data. Inside, a folder called Voicemail Backup 1999. Her breath stalled. She clicked. A file popped up, unknown international number, March 2nd, 1999. Simone's heart pounded as she pressed play. Static crackled. Then his voice, young, unsteady, heartbroken. "Simone, it's Tosh. I don't know what happened. You didn't come back to Vegas. I waited all night. I waited all week." A shaky breath. "You said you'd be there. I know life gets messy. I know you're scared. But I was ready. I just needed you to meet me halfway." Silence. Then quietly, "Please call me. Please, before I lose you." Simone's hand flew to her mouth. Her shoulders shook. A tear hit the desk. Because the universe hadn't abandoned them. They abandoned each other, without meaning to. She replayed the voicemail 3 times, and with each replay her heart cracked deeper, wider, painfully open. She wasn't angry anymore. She was terrified. Terrified of what she had run from. Terrified of what she had lost. Terrified of what she might still feel. Simone didn't sleep for 2 days after hearing the voicemail, not because she was angry, not because she was confused, but because something inside her, something buried for decades, had cracked open. The voicemail had unlocked a door she didn't even know existed, a door filled with memories, blurry at first, then sharper, faster. Like Vegas was clawing its way back into her consciousness. By the 3rd night, she couldn't fight it anymore. She needed answers. She needed truth. She needed him. Tosh found her in his office again, sitting on the floor, back against the wall, The Vegas box opened beside her. Photos, receipts, a crumpled Vegas chapel brochure. The silver ring. Memories swirled around her like ghosts. He stopped in the doorway, breath catching. Simone? She looked up and Tosh saw it. The walls she had built, stone by stone, were finally cracking. Tosh! Her voice trembled. Tell me everything again. No filters, no masks, no business, just truth. He closed the door and sat beside her on the floor. Close, but not touching. Not yet. Flashback. Tosh exhaled slowly. It started with the lights, he said. Simone blinked as a memory flickered. Neon pink, gold, blue. She saw herself laughing in a sparkly top, hair wild in the Vegas wind. You said you'd never seen a city that bold, Tosh continued. You said it felt like possibility. Simone's lips parted. She remembered saying that, not the words, but the feeling, the freedom. And you pulled me toward the strip, Tosh said, smiling softly, like you owned it. Their laughter echoed faintly in her mind, her grabbing his hand and daring him to keep up, him pretending not to be winded, her dancing on a sidewalk like the world had no rules. By the second night, Tosh swallowed, we couldn't stop talking. Simone remembered flashes, sitting cross-legged on a hotel bed, eating cheap fries from one container, wine bottles scattered, Tosh leaning back, staring at her like she was the only thing that existed. You told me your dreams, he said softly. You wanted to build a media empire that told Black stories with power and dignity. You said representation mattered more than sleep. Simone pressed a hand to her heart. And you, she whispered, told me you wanted the tech of tomorrow. His eyes softened. You called me brilliant. No one had ever done that. Simone nodded slowly. She remembered. A little. Enough. And then, Tosh added quietly, I kissed you. Simone's breath caught. She remembered that. Heat. Electricity. A kiss that wasn't messy or drunken, but warm, slow, like discovery, like recognition. She looked away, trembling. Tosh hesitated, the memory washing over him in warm, painful waves. Simone, you asked me to marry you, she gasped. No, I didn't. You did. It was the tequila. No, he said softly. You were sober. Her world tilted. You said, Tosh continued gently, let's do something reckless and unforgettable before life makes us boring. Simone closed her eyes as another flash hit. A tiny chapel, twinkly lights, an Elvis impersonator swaying off beat. Tosh's hands cupping her face. Her whisper, say yes. His soft answer, always. Her hand flew to her mouth. Oh my God. Tosh exhaled shakily, voice deepening. I remember us standing there. I remember the vows. I remember kissing you like the world had stopped spinning. He swallowed. But I don't remember the paperwork. Simone frowned through her shock. What do you mean? I thought it was symbolic, he admitted quietly. A wild ceremony. A moment. Rings we bought from a street vendor. I didn't know we actually filed legal documents. I didn't know it went through, Simone. She stared at him, stunned, her heartbeat loud in her ears. He continued, voice raw. We promised to find each other again, at the same spot. Simone shook her head in disbelief. And we would have, Tosh said, voice breaking, if life hadn't torn us away. Her eyes shimmered. And if we hadn't been so young, he added, too young to understand what we'd found. Silence stretched, heavy, charged, tender. Simone's voice finally broke through it. Tosh, I'm scared. He blinked. Of what? Her breath shuddered. Of caring, of hoping, of losing someone again. The confession ripped out of her like a wound reopening. Her voice softened further. I don't survive heartbreak. I bury it. I bury me. Tosh stared at her. All the fight gone. All the bravado stripped away. He whispered, I'm terrified too. Simone looked up. Of what? Of being unwanted, he admitted quietly. Of giving everything and not being enough. Not being chosen. She inhaled shakily. Tosh. Simone, he whispered. I lost you once. I can't lose you again. Something inside her broke open. Something he had been waiting for since he was 24 years old. Without thinking, Simone stood. She walked toward the balcony, needing air, needing space. But Tosh followed, not close, just enough. Outside, the Tokyo skyline glittered like shattered stars. Snow began to fall, soft, steady, just like the night they met. Simone leaned on the railing, eyes closing. Tosh stood beside her, breath forming small clouds in the cold. They didn't speak for a long time. Silence, for once, didn't feel like war. It felt like recognition. Finally, Tosh turned to her. Simone, he whispered, voice breaking under the weight of everything they'd been and everything they'd lost. Come home. She opened her eyes. He stepped closer, his voice barely audible. We're already there. Simone's breath caught. Her chest ached. Her heart opened. And when Tosh cupped her face, warm palms against cold cheeks, she leaned in before she even realized she was moving. The kiss was slow, deep, inevitable. A 25-year overdue answer. He pulled her closer. She gripped his shirt. The snow swirled around them, glittering like stars. This kiss was not the blizzard kiss. It wasn't the Vegas kiss. It wasn't the first kiss or the second or the 10th. It was the one they had been running from. The one that made them whole. They pulled apart, foreheads touching. Tosh, she whispered. He smiled. Yeah? Her lips brushed his. Don't let me run this time. He shook his head softly. I'm not letting you go. Before the moment could deepen, Simone's phone buzzed violently. She exhaled, frustrated. Not now. The headline flashing across her screen froze her blood. Breaking news. Vance Media and Akimoto Tech to form a joint empire, led by a real married couple. Simone gasped. Tosh's jaw clenched. The world had found out. And everything. Their past, their present, their fragile reconciliation was about to explode. The morning after their kiss, Tokyo woke up rabid. Simone woke up furious. Tosh! She shouted, the second she saw his face on the balcony, still wearing the shirt she'd kissed him in hours earlier. He turned. His expression softened, which only made her blood boil hotter. Simone, did you leak this to the press? No. You expect me to believe? Yes! She stared him down, eyes sharp enough to cut glass. He didn't flinch, because he hadn't leaked the story, though he would have taken a bullet before letting the world turn against her. He slipped his hands into his pockets and spoke gently. I took the blame. Simone blinked. What? It was going to explode online regardless. Better they think the reckless CEO leaked it than the most powerful woman in American media. She froze. He had protected her. Again and again and again. Even when they were rivals, he'd never humiliated her publicly, never undercut her power, never twisted the knife. And this morning, he shielded her without hesitation. Simone forced her voice to harden. That doesn't make this okay. The boards are in chaos. The shareholders are panicking. This could ruin everything we've... Her phone buzzed with 27 missed calls. Tosh's phone buzzed 43 times in 5 minutes. Their empires were screaming. No sooner had Simone and Tosh arrived at headquarters than both boards descended like vultures in expensive suits. A Vance media director slammed a stack of papers onto the table. "We need a statement. Now. The public believes you're a unified leadership. Are you staying married or divorcing?" Simone stiffened. Her throat burned. Akamoto Tech's CFO leaned forward. "Our stocks are reactive. Public sentiment hinges on your marital stability. Your answer shifts billions." Tosh tried to intervene. "This is complicated." "No, Mr. Akamoto," an older board member snapped. "This is catastrophic." Simone's heart pounded. Her palms went cold. This wasn't business. This wasn't negotiation. This was pressure squeezing old wounds she'd never healed. "Ms. Vance," the Vance media chair demanded, "are you staying in this marriage or dissolving it?" Simone breathed in. Love was risky. Business was safe. Loving Tosh meant opening the same door that had shattered when she lost her father. Meaning, her anchor, her courage, her direction. Business meant steel, walls, control, predictability. She lifted her chin. "I need time." "We don't have time," a board member barked. Her ears rang. Her chest tightened. Love was messy. Love was fragile. Love took people away. And business? Business never left. Business never died. Simone spiraled inward, fast, brutally, helplessly. Tosh saw it. His heart shattered. He didn't chase her when she stormed out of the meeting. Didn't corner her, didn't demand, didn't pressure. He let her walk away. But an hour later, her phone buzzed, a single message. No pleading, no manipulation, no guilt, just him, stripped down, honest. "Tosh, I'll fight any battle you ask. Just let me fight it with you." Simone closed her eyes. Her heart thudded painfully, because he'd always been there. Even when they were enemies, he countered her. He didn't destroy her. He matched her. He didn't belittle her. He argued. But he never walked away. She thought back. The blizzard confessions. His protective hand at the paparazzi swarm. His midnight massages. The tie he let her straighten even when it broke him. The way he looked at her like he'd found something precious he'd been searching for his whole life. She realized she had always been the one running. Tosh had always been the one staying. Her pulse steadied. Her breath came easier. Her eyes softened. And for the first time in her life, Simone Vance, the woman who conquered empires, decided to stop conquering and start choosing. 2 hours later, she marched back into the boardroom. Both boards rose, startled. Simone set her bag down with the force of a verdict. "Sit," she commanded. Even Akamoto's board obeyed. Tosh watched her, breath caught in his chest. Simone lifted her chin, eyes fire and steel and truth. "We're not merging because we have to," she said, voice steady and strong. "We're merging because we choose to." Gasps rippled around the table. The room erupted with questions. "Does this mean you're staying married? What about the..." Simone raised a hand. Silence fell. "This merger," she continued, "will be a joint empire led by both of us, equally, intentionally, and publicly." Tosh felt the ground shift beneath him. But her eyes, when they found his, they told him everything. Everything. After the meeting, when everyone had dispersed, Tosh approached her slowly. He didn't trust his voice. His hands shook. "Simone," he whispered. She turned to him. He stared at her like she was the sun after a 25-year winter. "You remember," he breathed. It wasn't a question. It was recognition. Simone stepped closer, close enough for him to see the truth in her eyes. "I remember everything," she whispered, and those 3 words, were more intimate than any kiss she had ever given him. Tosh exhaled shakily, not from relief, from awe, because for the first time in their lives, Simone Vance had chosen something. Not out of fear, not out of survival, not out of strategy, but out of desire. She had chosen him. The morning of the press conference dawned bright over Tokyo, the sky a crisp blue that carried the quiet hum of something new beginning. Inside the private wing of the Intercontinental, Simone stood before the mirror while an assistant clipped a microphone to her lapel. She wasn't nervous. Simone Vance didn't do nervous. But today, she felt something different. Not fear, not uncertainty. A strange, quiet sense of rightness. Behind her, Tosh adjusted his cufflinks, expression somewhere between awe and disbelief. Their eyes met in the mirror. "You ready?" he asked softly. "No," she said, "but let's go anyway." He smiled. The ballroom was packed. Media from Tokyo, New York, Seoul, London. Photographers, executives, investors, stock analysts waiting like wolves. Fans holding signs that said things like #Team Samash, #25-year love story, #Empire couple. Simone stepped up to the podium first. She didn't look at the reporters. She didn't look at the cameras. She looked at Tosh, just for a second. Then she spoke. Her voice was steady, warm, commanding. "For 25 years, Simone began, our empires grew apart. Flashbulbs burst. The room tilted forward, but our hearts didn't. A ripple of gasps, a pause thick enough to touch. Simone Vance, queen of steel and strategy, was telling the world a truth she had run from for decades. And she didn't flinch. She continued, though forgotten, our past bound us. Our choices separated us. Our mistakes delayed us. But destiny caught up. She took a breath. And today, we stand before you as partners. In business, in leadership, in life. Cameras nearly exploded. Then Tosh stepped to the second podium. Calm, composed, devastatingly handsome in a dark suit that made the entire front row sigh. He looked straight into the cameras and said, "Some mergers aren't hostile." His eyes found Simone. Their destiny. Simone's breath stalled. Everything went quiet. And then the ballroom erupted. Shouts, applause, the frantic clicking of cameras, chaos struggling to keep up with the two people suddenly rewriting corporate history. Once the noise settled, a large screen behind them lit up with the new logo, Vance Akimoto Global. 2 empires, merged, equal, intentional. Tosh continued, "We are launching a unified strategy that leverages both our company's strengths, a global streaming expansion, a tech-forward media future, co-CEOs, gasps." Simone added, "And yes, before the questions start, we are legally married." The room exploded again. Tosh lifted a hand for calm. "And yes," he said, with a faint smile, "we're staying that way." More chaos. And somewhere in that storm of flashlights and questions and stunned gasps, Simone felt a warmth bloom inside her chest. Something her armor had never let through, pride, peace, and something dangerously like joy. Hours later, as security escorted the last of the press out, Simone and Tosh remained on the empty stage. The lights had softened. The microphones were off. The world was finally quiet. Simone turned to him. Her voice lowered to something intimate, private. "We're not divorcing," she said. Tosh went still. "We're starting over." It took him a moment, a long, breathless, motionless moment, before he understood, before the meaning sank in, before it hit him like a tidal wave that he had waited literally a quarter of a century for this woman to choose him again. He stepped closer. "So," he whispered, "you mean—" She placed her hand lightly on his chest. "Yes," she said softly, "I'm choosing us." Something broke inside him. Something rebuilt itself instantly. He grinned, slowly, helplessly, beautifully. "I've waited 25 years, he whispered, "to hear you say that." Simone's lips curved. "Then don't waste the next 25. He didn't. He cupped her face with both hands. She leaned into him like she had been leaning toward him her whole life without knowing it. And they kissed. A kiss that wasn't rushed, wasn't loud, wasn't for the cameras. It was slow, deep, honest. A kiss of two people finally, coming home after years of wandering. Flashbulbs went off in the distance. Someone had snuck a camera in, but neither of them cared, because for the first time in decades, there were no questions, no rivalry, no fear, just them. Simone pulled back, breath uneven, forehead resting against his. "You ready?" she whispered. Tosh smiled softly. "Simone, I've been ready since Vegas." She laughed then, a sound he hadn't heard in 25 years, and something in him healed. As they walked off the stage hand in hand, the world watching, the empire reborn, two lives stitched back together. Simone's voice whispered, "The merger wasn't the surprise. Realizing we were always each other's home, that was." 3 years later, Tokyo was warmer now, early summer sunlight washing the city in gold. Simone watched the morning breeze move through the lavender beds she and Tosh had planted together their first spring as an official couple. 3 years. 3 years since they merged empires. 3 years since they stopped running. 3 years since they decided to start over instead of end. She still couldn't believe how easily love slipped into her life once she stopped barricading the door. Behind her, the glass door slid open. Tosh stepped out barefoot, hair messy from sleep, holding 2 mugs of ginger tea. He wore a simple white shirt and loose gray lounge pants. Nothing CEO, nothing polished, nothing strategic. Just the man she loved, just Tosh. He handed her a mug. "Morning, Mrs. Akamoto Vance." Simone raised a brow. "We agreed on alphabetical order." "Fine," he teased. "Morning, Mrs. Vance Akamoto." She smirked. "Better." He kissed her temple. Bossy as ever. Flirty as ever. He slid an arm around her waist as they looked over the skyline together. Tokyo had become home. Not because of the penthouse, not because of the empire, because of him. 3 years hadn't been smooth. 2 empires meant twice the headaches, twice the board meetings, twice the PR crises. But they were a team now. They ate breakfast together, debated strategy in bed, signed papers at the same desk, argued over ramen flavors, kissed in the elevator when they thought the cameras were off. Sometimes when they knew the cameras were on, they were steady, strong, stubborn, in love. Simone still laughed when she remembered how terrified she had been to admit her feelings. Now she couldn't imagine a life that didn't include Tosh stealing her pens, kissing her goodnight, or whispering nonsense in Japanese just to make her blush. Tosh pulled a small envelope from his pocket, eyes dancing with mischief. "What's that?" Simone asked. "A question," he said. "Oh, God. Relax. I'm not asking for another wedding." "You better not," she warned. "The first one was traumatizing enough." Tosh laughed, the sound deep and warm. Then he handed her the envelope. Inside was a single photograph, a reproduction of their old Vegas picture, the one he'd kept for 25 years, the one that changed everything. But on the back was a handwritten note, Simone flipped it over. Her breath caught. Round 2, Vegas, anniversary. This time we remember everything. She looked up slowly. Tosh watched her, nervous for the first time in years. Well, he said softly, want to marry me again, but this time consciously? Simone didn't speak. She simply placed her mug down, cupped his face, and kissed him. Slow, sure, grateful. When they finally parted, foreheads touching, she whispered, yes, let's go back. Not to rewrite anything, but to honor the beginning we didn't get to keep. Tosh exhaled a shaky breath. You're sure? She smiled. I've never been more sure of anything. He pulled her close, burying his face in her neck. Simone, I love you. She closed her eyes. I love you too. Later that night, as planes streaked across the Tokyo sky, they packed one suitcase. Just one. For the first time since they were 24, Simone and Tosh were going back to Vegas. Not for a merger, not for chaos, not for a drunken accident, but because they wanted to, because they chose to, because the universe had thrown them into each other's orbit again and again. And this time, they didn't run. As Simone zipped the suitcase shut, she whispered the line she had said once before. Half drunk, half laughing, full of courage. Let's do something unforgettable. Tosh grinned. Always. And they walked out hand in hand, ready to reclaim the place where destiny first found them. Some stories don't begin when you meet. They begin when you finally remember you were meant to find each other all along. The end. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. Some stories don't just entertain us. They remind us that love can wait quietly in the background through the years, through the chaos, until the moment we are finally ready. If this story touched you, don't forget to leave a comment telling me your favorite moment. Every like, every share, every little bit of support helps keep these AMBW stories alive. Until the next story, never underestimate what God can restore.